Hello, everyone. Josh Silverman from Calibrating. I'm here with Lowe.
Wait, who are you?
Josh Silverman.
Wait, I think I'm in the wrong room.
Wait, what are we doing here? Wait, we're in a hotel. How to get in here?
How'd this guy get in my hotel room?
Oh, I don't know what's going on. Okay. As you can tell, I'm here with Lowe, creator of the Leisure Suit Larry series. One of the main faces of Sierra throughout much of my childhood.
And mine.
And mine, yeah. Well, you do time travel, correct?
Yes.
So, we're here at the Game On Expo in Phoenix, Arizona. So how has the event been? We're here, Sunday, you're about to start the last day. How has this experience at this convention been for you?
Oh, it's been a hoot. Yeah, I've had a great time.
So how did you end up coming out to this specific
John
event?
Lester contacted me, a couple of years ago and asked if I could make it down, and I said, sure, I'd be glad to come to Phoenix sometime in January or that. And he said, no, man, it's in August. And it was like, what? No, nobody wants to come to Phoenix in August.
I live here year-round. I don't want to be here in August.
But anyway, I couldn't make it last year, but he contacted me again this year, and I said, yeah, sure, let's do it.
That's awesome. I was very excited to see you on this because, as I mentioned, before we even did the interview, I played Leisure Suit Larry around the time Love for Sale came out.
Did you pay for it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Okay.
Well, my dad paid for it.
That's fine.
And we'll question that at future psychological
probably
appointments.
90% of the people that I ask that question say, I paid for the later ones.
No, I actually, I had my dad buy me Love for Sale, fell in love with the game because, I was a 12-year-old kid, so, I was looking for nudity,
target audience.
That kind of stuff, because I'd seen it the old games on the shelves of Babbage's, for those who might remember that.
Yeah.
For years, and, every time you looked over there, the employees were like, no, you're young, look away. Avert your eyes,
Yeah,
child.
Sadly, there wasn't much dirty in there.
No, but I bought it, and then I fell in love with the comedy, was the thing. And actually, I love the art style of For Sale that I immediately went back and, purchased at the time. I think it was 1 through 6, and it was like the first time that
the collection?
Yeah, the collection. That it was the first time that both versions of the original game were available, and both the no sound and sound versions of 6 were available, like in one package. And again, absolutely loved the series. Did not get 90% of the comedy. It wasn't until years later when I replayed it. I'm like, holy crap, I love these games.
Yeah, you'll learn a lot more later in life.
Well, it's always one of those things when you play stuff, but you had a huge influence on my comedy, and well, I believe I'm funny. Nobody's actually ever confirmed this, but it was a huge influence. So, what do you feel about now where, how long has it been? Because correct me wrong, Leisure Suit Larry, the original one, came out in
June 5th of 1987.
87. I couldn't remember if it was 86 or 87.
Only 29 years ago.
So we're fast approaching the 30-year anniversary of Leisure Suit Larry. What do you feel about the legacy that Larry has left?
If I had known people were going to still be playing the games and interested in the games, I'd have done a better job at them. We were torquing out things. They were like short order cooks, we weren't like great chefs preparing, spending hours and hours, elaborate concoctions and agonizing over each little tiny pinch of salt or whatever. We were really geared up to produce games quickly, get on to the next game. It was do a game, produce another game, do another game. And we thought the half-life on the games was going to be much less than it was.
Well, it was so early in what video games, it's so different of an environment compared to now.
And in a way, it was really exciting, but in another way, it was amazing that we got anything done at all, because the tools that we had to work with were just incredibly primitive. For example, Larry was done before Photoshop was created.
Which is a hard thing to imagine nowadays.
That's what I mean. You tell people that, and they go, wait, how do you do graphics without Photoshop? And
use PrintShop now.
No, there was nothing.
There was nothing.
And there were guys at Sierra that created tools. A guy Bob Heitman wrote a screen painting program that allowed you to add planes of depth to it, So we only had 16 colors to work with under EGA, and so we reserved 4 of the colors for tripwires and indications of different states and so forth. So we only had 12 planes to work with. So everything was in a plane towards from front to back, and that's how we faked 3D. There was no real 3D. It was all faked in the computer.
I mean, which is just outstanding when you think about it.
Because, it's crazy.
Well, you look back at it now. I mean, some people who are not familiar with that generation may look back at the original Lisa Larry, the original version of Lisa Larry, and be like, "Oh, it's cheap-looking." But if you really admire what went into it, it's truly impressive.
There were some great things happened in there, and the character evolved over the years through the games as we got higher resolution and as we got we eventually graduated to 256 colors. Although 20, wait a second, I think that's wrong. I think 20 of them were reserved for Windows 3. So, honest to God, Windows 3 had this peculiar palette that it had to use, so we had to knock out 20 colors in the palette. We couldn't be assured of what those would be because you might change them in Windows.
It's just such a fascinating thing to think of. I mean, I've been a gamer since I was like a year and a half, 2 years old, pretty much. Like since I was able to physically pick up a controller.
Me too.
But you don't think, in those terms, like how colors work. I'm so far beyond that now with where technology is now that it's hard to remember that we did used to, as gamers, measure and game creators measure stuff by how many colors you could fit in. Yeah, and it's such a weird memory almost.
Yeah, and your watch has more memory than the computer games had available to them. Well, yours doesn't. But yeah, it's amazing how much we take all that stuff for granted. When I bought my first computer, here's an example of how technology has changed. That would have been 36 years ago. Okay. 36 years ago, I got 48K of memory.
Yeah.
I could have had 64K, but the extra 16 kilobytes was $200.
Yeah.
So I didn't pop for the extra. I figured, how can I ever fill 48,000? You know what? I don't need 64.
I mean, that's just the flow of technology. It's absurd. I mean, I still remember being a little kid and spending hours trying to talk my mom into letting me buy a CD-ROM drive, being the first kid to have a CD-ROM drive in Stamford, Connecticut that I knew of, because she couldn't justify it was like $400.
Oh, yeah.
And that was because I wanted to play with Microsoft Encarta.
Was that a writer?
It might have been.
It might not have been. It might have just been a reader.
No. Writers hadn't been invented yet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Like that was that was.
Well, we were so happy when CD-ROMs came along because finally people couldn't steal our games.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, for a time.
That lasted about a year.
that lasted until the time the first CD hit the market.
Yeah.
Larry's been around for this long time, and then has had obviously the droughts have happened of,
he had a great 10-year run.
He had a 10-year run.
And after 10 years, the venture game market kind of just vanished. Larry 7 made money for Sierra. It got good reviews. Everything about it was fine, and you'd think that there was going to be another version come out afterwards, and I even plugged it at the end of the game.
I remember.
And son of a bitch, everything went to hell. It was a couple games didn't sell well, but the thing that killed us was the first-person shooters. Got so popular that adventure games seemed quaint in comparison. That's your fault.
That's mature. Sorry about that.
And so the market kind of went away, and it was sad because Larry 7 was the first game that I wrote where I actually started designing it and thought to myself, "Oh, I know what to do." All the other games, it was like, "Oh God, I hope nobody finds out that I don't know what I'm doing, that I'm a fake, and I hope I figure this out." And but by the time 7 came around, I was like, "Oh yeah, I know what to do now. I can do a game."
Well, you finally got the rhythm going. You finally knew what you wanted to do with the character, with the story, with everything, and then the rug gets pulled out from under you.
And it's gone. So
and then we had Personally, I liked the what was it, Vivendi, I think, made Magna Cum Laude, or I forget. Well, anyways, the follow up games. I liked the first
There
one.
were two games that
I would
came
not
out
necessarily,
without me.
I would not necessarily refer to the second one that came out without you as a game necessarily, but as fans, we were obviously disappointed because it didn't have the feel of the previous stuff. It felt like a company making something based on a brand, not based on actual love for a brand.
Well, and even the title, I kept thinking, I'm not getting the joke. There must be, Magna Cum Laude. There must be. Mm-hmm. No, there was no joke. It was just they just missed it. It's like the easiest line in the world. They could have had a wonderful, twist of words or something.
Yeah,
no,
they could have played with it. It was.
Wait, what about his name?
Mm-hmm.
His name is Larry Lovage. Oh, what is that? That's got to be a joke, right? No, that's just the only word they could think of that had an L in it.
Yeah,
it was. It was.
I enjoyed it, but
it was sad to see because I felt kind of like a parent who got a video tape from his son's kidnappers.
No, I could totally.
It was like, well, thank God he's still alive. But oh shit, look what they've done to him. I had very mixed emotions about that whole process.
No, that's horrifying to think about.
That's why I was glad to see Leisure Suit Larry Reloaded come back to life, and I don't know how much people know about intellectual property rights, but that's a big deal in the industry because the games that I created for Sierra, the Space Quest guys, their games, everybody, all the people's games, they don't own the rights to those things. So I don't own anything to do with Leisure Suit Larry. Now I rip it off and I put it on my website, allowe.com. Be sure and go to allowe.com. I've got a lot of stuff on my website and that, but it's illegal. I mean, I'm not, I'm in violation of some law someplace.
If somebody decided to actually pursue you on it, which,
I would. They would send me a cease and desist, and I would desist.
Yeah.
But anyway, I have no rights to any of that stuff. The rights were owned by Sierra, and when Sierra merged with Blizzard and formed Sendent, and then Sendent got in financial difficulties and sold off the games division to Havas in France, and Havas merged with Vivendi, and Vivendi they sold to Vivendi, and then Vivendi merged with Universal Studios, and then VU Games got sold to Activision, and Activision took a look at the last Larry game, and it was so bad that they couldn't find any way to publish it, but they had to pay for it anyway. So they sold the rights to Codemasters in Germany. So some guy in Germany owns all the rights to the characters and including me, by the way, because I was stupid and put myself and Ken Williams and other people around Sierra in the games just being funny. Yeah, just being funny. Except now that Codemasters owns the rights to those characters.
Your likeness, as far as those characters in the game, is owned by some random. It's just sort of by Code. I mean, that's it. Because it's such a different time. You created these games, you threw the little canvas because it's a fun little thing to do. Give people a little touch of the Sierra personality. And
also, we were struggling trying to find things to put. It was you have to come up with characters, and it's much easier to put in Josh if there's a Josh nearby, because then you can say, oh well, we'll make him, we'll give him glasses and we'll give him a beard and this kind of hair, and we'll do this thing. And that was an easy way to create characters.
It's a simple thing. So then you did the Larry Kickstarter, which went very well.
That's been 4 years ago.
It blows my mind because I started constantly calibrating about a couple of weeks before that Kickstarter started, and the first article series I thought, I'm going to write an article series, because we were just a podcast with a half-assed blog attached to it. I thought, I'm going to write, I think it was called Retro Rewind, is what I called it, and every day for the second week of the Kickstarter, I would play a Larry game, and I would review it.
Oh,
and
cool.
Do back-to-back. I even wrote a review of Larry 4, which was essentially a fan fiction, which how I imagined the combination, because... But it was a great experience for me because I got to replay stuff I hadn't played since I was a kid. Because I hated Larry 2 and Larry 3 when I was a kid, but I loved 5 because I felt they were. I don't remember my reasoning, but I was a kid who rushed through stuff. I read walkthroughs. I just wanted to play games. I was one of those people. I just wanted to get through stuff. I didn't really think. So I took my time and ended up those two ended up becoming my favorite of the series. And
I think that's one reason adventure games have fallen out of favor is that people are looking for the quick path opposed to we always thought that the journey was the reward. It wasn't getting to the end that was the reward. If you got to the end too fast, it's like sex.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to be the first one done.
No, it's no, but that's
the journey is the.
But the journey is. I mean, that's a great analogy of the situation, and I think gaming went through this period where we had very easy, almost like the whole game was borderline a tutorial. Like you just had your handheld. That was like a good 5-10 years. I think weirdly enough, with games like the Dark Souls series and things like that, and Bloodborne, and like these games that are extremely difficult. I think we're actually getting back to a point that adventure gaming, weirdly enough, 2D adventure gaming can actually make a resurgence because we have these games that are so stupidly difficult that people are actually taking their time and learning about them. And I think it's retraining another generation of gamers to actually have patience.
All I want is for somebody to make me laugh. You know, I loved Tim Schafer's games and all the LucasArts games and Space Quest and all those games were funny. And you had to do some work to get to them, but at least they were funny. And boy, it's tough to find a smile today.
Comedy in gaming is much like comedy in films.
You go through that whole convention over there, there's not a lot of people laughing.
There's not. Well, I mean, look, we're in a day and age right now. We need some bloody comedy in the world. And the problem is gaming and film have both suffered this thing where comedy has become they shove it in your face kind of comedy. It's thrust at you like it's literally here's a joke kind of thing. But we need the subtlety of the Sierra days, of the LucasArts days as far as gaming goes, where you kind of chuckle at a joke or a gag, and then like you're a day or two later, you start actually laughing in the middle of a random thing because you're like, shit, what? I just got that.
Yeah, and I like humor that makes you think. It's much more satisfying to me to have that experience than it is to have it immediately. It's just like an obvious punchline. I don't watch most TV sitcoms. Well, first of all, I don't watch anything that has a laugh track.
No.
Because if it has a laugh track, that means they didn't try very hard.
Don't tell me to laugh.
Yeah, don't tell me when to laugh. I want to be surprised. But, so I don't watch a lot of current sitcoms because they're all set-up joke, set-up punchline, set-up punchline. And a lot of it is insult punchline, insult.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, that's just lazy. You're just being lazy, man. Come on.
I agree. So we're now at this almost 30-year point. While the Kickstarter went well, things obviously did not go well. Post-Kickstarter, we don't really necessarily get into that, but the game was mostly well received, but obviously the replay games kind of...
Well, replay games imploded. But and that's the kindest way I can describe it. But the game itself had a couple of weeks of real success, but there's this incredible flood of product in the market today, which I didn't face 30 years ago. You would walk into a computer store and you would say, "You got anything new?"
And you could actually walk out with an answer.
And somebody
no.
would say, "Well, yeah, there's this and there's that." Now there's 100 games a day coming out, and wait, that might be light.
No, you're probably underscoring.
Yeah,
I was just looking at. There's a site that.
Well, of course, 90 of them aren't any good.
No.
But still, that's a lot of stuff. Nobody can play all the stuff that comes out that's good.
Well, because you have all the way from like the AAA major games all the way down to this small indie, with the single guy who's making a game in his garage still, which I still love that still happens.
Yeah.
But you have that whole thing, and like you look at a website for upcoming games, and you're like, I don't even know what because I run a game site. I don't know what the hell to play half the damn time because I actually get overwhelmed by it. So you have to really
and we suffered from that. And so what we hoped was that the game would sell and make enough money that we could afford to do a remake of the other games, but it didn't do very well. well, that's not the right way to say it. It didn't do well for long enough.
Yeah, it didn't.
I guess that's the way to say it.
It didn't have prolonged success.
Correct, and so the decision was easier, especially when the company kind of had its problems and things went away. But I would still love to see the games revised and brought up to standards so that people could play them on today's machines. Reloaded plays on Android and Apple and Mac and PC and runs great on all of them. It's got high-res graphics. It's got good sound. And if you haven't played it yet, you go spend $2 or whatever the hell it costs. It's
I personally would recommend it. I mean, I did the Kickstarter, but
I don't see any money from it. I won't get a cent. No, but it's still a good game, and I'm proud of it. So
it's still a good experience. And if you liked the previous Larry stuff, it's a good bringing forward.
And I should mention too before we have to close.
I
have a website called allowe.com. Just 6 letters.
So simple.
It's the same as all O. Like everybody owes money, right? allo.com. And if you enjoyed this and you listened this long, you'll probably find hundreds of things there to delight you for hours and hours on end. Plus, it's a humor site. I mean, there's 2 sides of it. There's the old Sierra stories, the inside stories about what happened in the old days and how we created games and that kind of stuff. And then there's also just a boatload of humor. I've got 7,000 sight gags. I've got a database that you can go and search, do a Google search on my database of jokes. I have 8,000 jokes loaded in there, all of them different, all unique, and all tightly edited and honed.
Yeah, and follow Al on Twitter as well, because you're always putting up little fun jokes.
Yeah, I do. I post short jokes to Twitter, but if you want 2 jokes a day, go to my website and sign up for Cyberjoke 3000. Cyberjoke 3000.
As opposed to
and you'll get 2 jokes every weekday morning, one of which is clean.
Oh. Yeah, well, I'm trying to tie it up because obviously you have places you need to be, but let's say like one of my content creators, Ryan Furster, has been a fan of yours for years, and I actually think it's been like a borderline, like he sent you emails all the time, and he also he wanted me just to give him a shout out during this because he's been a fan, and you helped shape his humor as well. He's a stand-up comedian out of South Carolina.
Oh, good for him.
But okay. The very, very last, hopefully we get short question is, let's say someone is able to get the rights to Larry and does go forward with another reboot of the second game, the third game, etc. Would you consider coming out over time once more for it?
What's more fun than game design? I mean, this is the best way in the world for a grown man to make a living.
Yeah, true. I mean, if you're able to do, why not?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's outstanding. Well, Al,
and I if we're closing here, I want to say I have had a really fortunate career in this business. I got in early, back when there was still a lot of demand for individual products and stuff, and people supported my games, and I appreciate that. I mean, I really, I'd say sincerely that thank you for buying my games and for allowing me to have this fun all these years, and still after 30 years here, we're still talking about it. So I mean, that's been fun.
That right there is the legacy of it. That right there is the great aspect of this, and it's outstanding. And again, as someone who grew up with the games, I thank you, sir, because it had a huge aspect of shaping me. But okay, allo.com. Find Al on Twitter as well, at Lowe.
Facebook, Lowe.
Lowe on Facebook. And as far as Constant Calibrating goes, facebook.com/Constant Calibrating. We do live streams on Twitch, twitch.tv/Constant Calibrating. We are currently on hiatus, but we're coming back within less than 2 weeks from when you were probably watching this. And with that, I bid you a good sign-off. Thank you, Al.
My pleasure.